our guy, Bob Nightengale, about a couple minutes ago, put out an article interviewing Mike Shildt, where Mike Shildt basically opens up about being fired by the Cardinals. The title is, I Have a Broken Heart. Mike Shildt bears his soul about being fired by the Cardinals. So I was trying to read there during the commercial break. Some pretty good stuff here. So when Mozeliak called him, Mike Shildt thought he was going to get an extension.
Oh.
And he says, so here we go. Mozeliak opened up the call by saying, quote, Mike, this conversation isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. So Shildt is thinking he's about to get a contract extension, and he gets fired.
I'll be honest with you. Like, as a so-called rights holder insider, I heard they were working on an extension. I heard they were, at least they had discussed it with him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that verifies it. You know what I mean? That verifies it. And the news of the firing came out of nowhere for me. Like, I was as shocked as any fan would be. Like, I had no heads up on that.
So,
damn, man.
Shildt says, quote, I never thought it was a possibility. Shildt says, it hit me like a ton of bricks. He walked upstairs to tell his wife, Michelle. She didn't believe him. She thought it was a joke. It actually took several minutes for Shildt to convince her that he was fired.
Aw.
He says, where's the good quote here? He said, it feels like it was stolen away from me. So he said he had all those emotions. Then he gets the job with the Padres, but basically it all came back when he saw the Albert Pujols presser thinking that he should be up there.
I like him, man. He's a good dude.
He's
a nice guy.
Did it say what led to the firing? What were the...
I'm trying to read it on the fly here.
Just so you know, for context, I'm sure folks have written about it and people have read about it, but Ollie Marmol and Shildt are friends. There was never any friction. Like, it was Shildt and Ollie right there. Like, they were, side by side. They were one and the same. That's why, and Ollie will talk about Shildt in the most positive way and that he learned. So I think the way he's going to operate will have a lot of Shildt as part of it. And Shildt was a good dude. I mean, he is a good guy. Is a good dude.
Sorry, how about this? There might be more good stuff after this, but this is good. I'm just reading on the fly.
No, do it.
How about Tony La Russa? Tony La Russa weighs in. And the fact that Shildt was fired because of a, quote, toxic environment. Here's what Tony La Russa said. Quote, that one frosted my ass. La Russa said, quote, my comment was that if it was toxic, it must be in the front office. I'm for the Cardinals. Everybody makes their own decision. But when you start talking about that, it might damage his chance to manage again. For those that don't know any better, he did a hell of a job. Philosophical differences, okay, but toxic? He's a special guy. That's why it's so important for his reputation to be intact and not smeared. End quote. That's from Tony La Russa.
Damn.
How about this? There's more. John Mozeliak, when contacted, declined to publicly revisit the reasons for Shilt's firing. He simply reiterated that there were philosophical differences, saying Shilt's record and success as manager was inconsequential in the decision.
So who said it was toxic?
So, okay, Shildt, without going into public details, acknowledges he didn't share the same views with Mozeliak on some components of the organization, but not nearly enough to provoke a firing. Again, this is from USA Today, Bob Nightengale, just dropped here recently. Very interesting stuff. Shildt says, I thought I was going to die in my Cardinals uniform, he said. That's why it still hurts so much.
Yeah, that's never the case, though. I thought I was going to play for the Blues for 20 years. It's not going to happen. But who said it was toxic, though? Because anytime you use toxic in the locker room and you're a coach trying to get another job, that does hinder you.
Look, so that first half that the team had, they were playing below expectations. Totally. I mean, it wasn't easy. So there was an edge around there. And you could see when Shilt's getting asked the same question, what can you do? What are you, that, and this is his first time really being under the gun. And you could see that there was some frustration, obviously, and he's relaying it the best he can without selling out his team or anything. It wasn't easy. So I don't know what was going, because I never heard, and that doesn't mean that it's not there. I never heard toxic. I just know when a team struggles and they got a good enough team to be playing better, It ain't easy, And that goes for players, too. People are like, oh, they're getting paid. They don't care. Players care.
Of course they do.
Players care.
Damn right.
The coaching staff cares. The front office cares.
Unless you're the Pirates. Go ahead.
Everybody except the Pirates cares, okay? He says, Shildt says, quote, I have a broken heart. It still hurts. It hurts bad. When it first happened, I broke down. I was inconsolable. I got better as time went on. Then I got down here, put on the Padres uniform, and it hit me. Quote, now it just hit me again. Just hours earlier, Albert Pujols and the Cardinals were rejoicing during an impromptu press conference announcing that Pujols was returning to the organization for one last dance, ending his Hall of Fame career with the Cardinals where it all started. Shildt should have been on the stage too, smiling in front of the cameras.
Yeah,
that was from Nightengale.
He's in San Diego, and it's 72 degrees there, and,
But you got to understand, though, this was a guy who was under the tutelage of, like, Cardinal legends.
Yeah,
this was a guy who, played a little college baseball at a little school. This is a guy who was, like, running youth camps and stuff. Got into the Cardinal organization, was a sponge, learned, listened, climbed the ranks slowly, doing it. This is all he knew.
Yeah.
Mike Shildt.
But think about this, and I read it earlier, but he gets the call from Mo. And Mike Shildt thinks in his mind, because remember, he had 1 year left. So you don't usually want a lame duck manager. So you're either going to fire the guy, but most people thought you're probably going to give a contract extension. So he gets the call from Mo thinking, let's talk, 2-3 year contract extension. And Mo says, where's the quote? Basically, whatever it was.
This conversation isn't going to go the way you think it will.
Quote, Mike, this conversation isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go, end quote.
And your heart just sinks. Yeah, that's tough, man. You're thinking one way and you get smacked in the face. But again, he's got a new job. He's chilling in 72-degree weather. Beautiful area. San Diego. Whew, lovely down there. Had a ton of money. I don't know. There's some nice areas down in San Diego.
Now you think about if you're Ollie, who you think the world of Shildt, right? Now you're the next man up. I mean, there's got to be mixed emotions for him, too.
Yeah. I'd say so. Kyle chimes in and goes, on the Seeing Red podcast with Burn Dog and Will Leach, Mr. Mikolas mentioned that there were some rumblings about the way that Shildt would talk to some of his coaches. I don't know if it's true, and I'm doing a poor job of summarizing, so you should definitely listen to their most recent podcast. That's on 5-9 The Fan app, by the way, so check that bad boy out. And, of course, download that. Everybody's like, somebody chimed in yesterday and goes, I can't hear you that well. Well, put it in your app and put it in your pocket. Download that app. It's free. 5-9 The Fan St. Louis. And all of a sudden you have it on your phone. You can walk anywhere. My dad just figured it out. It's a game changer. Go ahead.
And so, by the way, Shildt does say nice things about Ollie. He's a sharp guy. He's ready for it. I'll be pulling for him and for all those guys. I'll never stop pulling for the Cardinals. They're the ones who gave me this opportunity in the first place. They're the ones who took a chance on me, and I'll always be grateful for that, end quote. But I'll tell you what, the quote of the article is TLR, baby. Quote, that one frosted my ass.
Yeah.
Tony La Russa says, and he took a nice little shot at the Cardinals front office.
Yes, he did. Mick chimes in and goes, Shildt never held his players accountable. He was too easy. That was the rumbling I would hear. And Charlie, we talk about that too. That maybe it was too easy.
Well, I think his post games.
Oh, yeah.
I understood why he did it. There was too much golly G.
Yeah, golly G.
There was too much golly G.
Shildt did amazingly well. Shildt did amazingly well cleaning up the defense. It got tiring listening to his post-game pressers, no matter how well or how bad they played. Shildt and Berube are polar opposites. Personally prefer Berube, as he tells it like it is, no BS. I get that. I do. The golly gee, well, you could sometimes call somebody out. Sometimes you got to call people out. Not all the time. There's ways to do it. There's a balance. But sometimes you need to be an ass.
Tougher, I think, for a baseball guy because it's every night.
It's every night, no doubt.
It's every night. And it's tough to figure out, I think, as a manager, how you're going to play it. You can't lose the clubhouse.
It's true.
Can't be too tough.
It's a balance.
By the same token, you don't want the fan base to think you're a guy that can't handle it, that isn't in charge. It's a tough balance.
I remember I'd always get weirded out when he's like, "Go, golly gee, they worked their ass off," and I'm like at what? What do you mean? What? Run the bases? Would they really work hard on? Again, in hockey, You're not trying. Like, it's noticeable. You could try harder. This said when baseball, he kept saying, "Oh, they worked their ass off out there." What does that mean?
That's implied.
What does that mean,
expected.
though? Like, they ran harder and they swung harder?
I think what you said is absolutely true. In baseball, you could be busting it, and if you're not hitting it, doesn't look like it. You don't know.
Doesn't matter.
But, I mean, like, he can know that a guy took extra BP. You know, he can know that everyone's trying, everyone's pushing. It just doesn't look that. So how do you explain that?
I don't know.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying his messaging was off, it's hard to dispute that, right? I get that. I just don't know how I would play it if I were a manager. It's
tough.
It's a tough spot. You cannot continually throw your players under the bus. You can't. You lose the clubhouse.